Episode 49. Dragon Gang are coming.
Stay away, don't you dare touch me.
Scarlett was scared. After all, she killed Jeff's girlfriend. But she had a reputation to protect. If she ran away in front of so many witnesses, she wouldn't be able to show her face around here again. Jeff walked up to her and slapped her hard.
You stinking loser.
She said.
You're asking for it now.
Blood dripped from her split lip. She wanted to hit him back, but he had already grabbed her by the hair, not caring if he hurt her. Keeping his grip, he started to move toward the lake.
Let go, you bastard.
Scarlett kept cursing. Jeff yanked hard and she stumbled, falling to the ground. He didn't wait for her to get back up, but simply dragged her along the grass, making her scream with pain. Jeff tossed her into the lake, grabbed her hair again, and shoved her head under the water, just as she'd had her friends do to Lelaine. She wanted her to feel what Lelaine had felt.
I'll let go of me, you loser.
Scarlett screamed in panic when he pulled her up. He pushed her head back under the water once again.
Help me.
She screamed the next time she came up.
This lunatic wants to kill me. Help.
She choked and coughed up a few mouthfuls of water. Maybe some of the bystanders would save her. But if any of them had that kind of courage, then Lelaine wouldn't have died. They were too afraid to get involved, so they just watched quietly from the sidelines. Jeff pushed Scarlett deeper into the water and held her there for longer and longer. Every time she came out of the water, she felt more and more desperate as she tried to drag precious air into her lungs.
Jeff, I'm sorry.
She sobbed.
I shouldn't have killed Lelaine. Please let me go.
She couldn't take any more of Jeff's punishment. If he kept this up much longer, she might die.
What's the point of apologizing now?
He demanded, his heart heavy with grief.
Will it bring Lelaine back? She's the one you should be apologizing to.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
She begged.
I'll pay you compensation. How much do you want? $500,000? $1 million? Just think about it. If anything happens to me, you'll be in trouble. It'll ruin your life.
Too late,
he said. Scarlett felt a chill running down her spine. He was actually about to kill her. Jeff pushed her head under the water again. He had already made up his mind. With Lelaine dead, then his life was no longer worth living. After it killed Scarlett, he would bury Lelaine and then follow her into the next life.
Lelaine,
He thought.
I didn't take good care of you in this life, but I'll make it up to you in the next. Wait for me, I'll be there soon.
By this point, Scarlett had already been under the water for a minute. Air bubbles appeared on the surface, and her hand struck the water hard as she struggled. She fought much harder than Lelaine's previous attempt. Suddenly, a roar sounded. The iron gates of the school were thrown open, and several cars drove in. They were being driven recklessly, and some of the students had to jump quickly out of the way to avoid being run over. The expensive-looking cars drove straight toward Ramsey Lake, attracting the students' attention.
That's a Mercedes.
Someone shouted.
And a Jaguar BMW and a Rolls-Royce.
The students had never seen so many luxury cars in one place. Many of them exclaimed in admiration before taking out their cell phones to take photos. The doors of all cars except the Rolls-Royce opened almost at the same time. Between 3 and 5 people got out of each car. Although they were all individuals who wore different clothes, they had one thing in common. The right hand of each person displayed a dragon tattoo. Some of them rushed at the students and grabbed their phones. A few fierce men muscled their way through the crowd. They said,
We're the Dragon Gang Society. If you don't want any trouble, then keep your mouth shut. If anyone is tired of living, then continue taking photos.
The onlookers were terrified. Not wanting to get into trouble, they didn't resist at all.
The Dragon Gang Society.
One of the students whispered.
They own the city, right?
I heard there was a bloody battle between the gangsters in New York last month.
Another student answered.
And the Dragon Gang Society won. Now they control the New York underworld.
These people are savage, and no one can touch them.
Someone said.
I'm finished. I'm out of here. That guy's in a lot of trouble now.
While some of the men stopped the students from taking photos, another group rushed toward Jeff, carrying iron rods. When they began to attack, Jeff had to let go of Scarlett to save himself. Scarlett's face broke the surface of the water, and she gulped down deep breaths of fresh air. 10 seconds later, she would have met the same fate as Lelaine. When she had recovered a little, some of the men from the Dragon Gang Society helped her to the shore. The door of the Rolls-Royce opened, and a man in his 50s stepped out. His hair was white and long enough to reach the base of his neck. He was dressed in a smart suit and had a cigar in his mouth. Even though none of the students had ever seen him before, they could tell that he held power within the Dragon Gang Society. He was their leader, Nathan Anderson.
Uncle Nathan.
Scarlett called, rushing toward him. Everyone was shocked again. No wonder Scarlett was so out of control. She was the niece of the head of the Dragon Gang Society. No one would dare to come after her. Scarlett hugged Nathan as she cried.
Uncle Nathan, if you would have come a little later, it would have been too late. That loser just tried to drown me. I need you to help me to kill him.
Don't cry, Scarlett.
He lightly patted his niece's back.
If he dares to bully you in my city, then he must be tired of living. I'll deal with this for you.
His eyes flashed with fury as he looked at Jeff, who was still fighting with 3 men in the water. Jeff wasn't weak, and his determination to get revenge for Lelaine made him even stronger. One of the men fell into the water, and Jeff didn't hesitate to attack. Even though they hit him, he didn't back down. Managing to hold his own, he punched each man several times, leaving them lying on the ground, bleeding from cutscenes on their heads. Jeff also suffered a few injuries, but he didn't care. He only had one thought: kill Scarlett. He made his way toward her. She was standing beside Nathan, but Jeff ignored him.
Uncle Nathan, he's coming over. See that look in his eyes? He wants to kill me. Help me kill him first.
Scarlett said fearfully.
Don't worry.
Nathan reassured her. He tilted his head slightly to the side, and one of his men pulled out a black pistol, loaded it, and aimed right at Jeff. When they saw the gun, some of the students stared in fear while others took a step back. They had only seen guns in movies, never in real life. Guns were dangerous, and they could kill someone, so who wouldn't be afraid? But Jeff acted as if he hadn't seen it. He was focused on Madison, as he continued to stalk her. Nathan was surprised. He raised his hand and pointed at the man with the gun.
You, shoot him.
Bam! A gunshot rang out. Ah! Jeff screamed and fell to the ground. He covered his right arm with his hand. Bright red blood soaked his brown sleeves. The stain grew bigger and darker, and blood dripped onto the green lawn. Seeing Jeff fall to the ground made Scarlett extremely happy, and her anger began to drain away. When they heard the gunshot, everyone was scared and people began to scream. Jeff lay on the ground for only a few seconds before he got up. He held his bleeding arms. He continued to walk toward Scarlett. Nathan grew even more surprised. He scowled.
This kid was challenging his authority. Hey idiot, stay where you are. I'll put a shot in your head and another in your heart.
If someone killed the love of your life, would you let them go?
Jeff asked coldly. He hoped that Nathan would let him deal with Scarlett, but it wasn't going to be that easy. Nathan looked at Scarlett in confusion. She told him the truth of what happened, and he glanced at Lelaine lying motionless on the grass. He sneered.
She's no one. Who cares that she's dead? And you want my niece to pay for the death of a nobody?
You don't understand.
Jeff was still moving closer. Nathan was becoming annoyed. He raised his hand again and shouted angrily.
Shoot him in the leg.
Bam! The gunshot rang out again. Ah! Jeff lurched to the right. He held his bleeding leg tightly and closed his eyes against the pain. Nathan nodded with satisfaction.
That's what happens when you don't listen to me.
He thought.
Who do you think you are? You're a stupid kid who dares to challenge me. Well, this is where it gets you.
Nathan's smile faded when he saw Jeff starting to crawl toward him again, leaving a red trail of blood behind him. The surrounding people were also moved by Jeff's bravery. For a moment, they forgot their fear and hoped that Jeff would succeed in avenging his girlfriend, their hearts filled with both pity and hope.
Stinking loser, do you really think you can kill me?
Scarlett said coldly, looking at Jeff on the ground. She took the gun from one of the men, pointed it at Jeff's head and said,
Since you love Lelaine so much, why don't you join her?
She stepped back and her finger began to squeeze the trigger.